Hi, welcome to another episode of Look Ma No Hands. My name is Linda, and I believe this is episode 41. On this little podcast, or whatever you'd like to call it, I talk about all things crochet, books, TV and movies, and pretty much anything that strikes my fancy. Occasionally I will do an episode with a segment called Fancy Footwork, where I show how I've adapted everyday activities to be able to do them with my feet since I was born without arms. This week has been kind of back to a little bit more of a normal stride, getting back into the swing of things after I attended the Skills for Life conference a couple weeks ago. I feel like I'm back into the swing of everyday life. So this week I'm not wearing anything crochet, but I am wearing a t-shirt representing one of my favorite organizations, Dare to Try. The thing I like most about Dare to Try is just the fact that they kind of gave me an opportunity to have a feeling of belonging in an athletic community. So I really appreciate all the things they do to help those of us with disabilities be able to live active and exciting lives doing things that a lot of people take for granted. So yeah, just wearing that shirt today and feeling good, and that's one of the things that I kind of got back into the swing of things this week, with going back to the gym and trying to be a little better about taking some time during the day to do something active so that I have a good, strong, healthy heart, so that I can live a long and happy life. Stitching wise, crochet wise this week, I took the time to sit down and finally dive into a project that I've been thinking about for probably the whole year. It's a project that I'll talk about in more detail in a video specific to that project, but basically what I'm going to do is make a very large granny square blanket, according to a concept that I came up with because of my love for Sudoku puzzles. So keep on the lookout for that little project coming up. It might be something that you would like to kind of stitch along with me. So I will be explaining in much more detail what's going to be happening with that in an upcoming video. So stay tuned. Apparently, I really like to end my calendar year with really large blanket projects. And I say this because at the end of last year, at right about the same time, I decided to do a granny square project where I started with, I think it was from Crochet with Tiffany Hansen, the pattern that she has, or the instructions that she has to do a granny square starting with a circle in the center. So I did a bunch of colorful circles for my center part, and then outlined them all with a cream color and made a blanket big enough to cover my twin-sized bed. And it pretty much took me all of November, December, and the first couple of weeks of January to complete that project, but it turned out really nice. I really liked it. It was really beautiful. So it was exciting, and I'm hoping that this project ends up being equally as satisfying as that one. So yeah, big project. This one is gonna, from what I can kind of see already of what I've been working on, is going to end up probably being big enough for a queen size bed. So much bigger project, probably will take about the same frame time, or time frame, something like that. It's gonna be probably 2.5, maybe 3 months to finish. So at the pace that I'm working at, if I can keep this pace, then we'll be right on the mark for finishing right around the new year. Reading this week, I finished 3 audiobooks. The first one was called The Lonely Hearts Book Club by Lucy Gilmore. Now, I think this book didn't hit quite the sweet spot that I was hoping it would hit. I think I was just not in the right headspace when I first started reading it at the beginning of the week, because something about the book was kind of difficult to follow and difficult to get into. It's maybe it was a slow start, maybe my headspace just wasn't there, but it did pick up around the middle of the book where maybe I got more focused in on listening. But basically, the book is about a woman who works in the library, and she kind of wants to start a book club, but there just isn't funding for her to be able to do that. And again, like I said, I wasn't really in the headspace for listening. I think she kind of got like furloughed or something and lost her job, and ended up kind of starting her own little book club with an elderly gentleman that used to come into the library that she ended up kind of becoming like a caregiver for. And that, yeah, it was just, I was kind of lost at the beginning of what exactly was going on. But ultimately, she discovered that some of his grumpiness was due to a personal loss that he was grappling with as the story was unfolding. She kind of found out about what was going on in his life and some of the unrest that he was experiencing in his personal life. And with her understanding of like working with the public and things like that, she was able to kind of help him through those hard times and bring things kind of to a happier place, I guess, kind of in his personal life. And then there was also another woman in the neighborhood that she was familiar with that was struggling with some personal issues, and she was able to connect her with the older gentleman. Like, everybody kind of was part of like this little book club that she created, and everybody that came together in this club were kind of like social misfits that somehow, as a book club together, ended up really being like the perfect fit for each other. So, like I said, the start of the book, I think maybe my head wasn't really in the game, but then as I got further along in the book and further along in the week, I was settling back into life as usual. And it was a good read. Like, I don't know what my problem was at the beginning, but it worked out to be quite interesting, and I was satisfied with how the book wrapped up, even though I feel like it was a slow burn, and then it kind of like exploded at the end and ended like, I was like, well, where's the rest of the story? But I think it was just me and how I had a hard time getting into it. But it was definitely a satisfying ending, and everybody kind of had closure in whatever they were struggling with. So it was good. Then the second one that I read, a far departure from the kind of like more lighthearted, joyful book. This one was called The Apartment Across the Hall by Jack Dane, and it is a psychological thriller. And from the very beginning of this book, it just like sucks you in. Basically, the title kind of tells it all. Like, in terms of the setting, it's an apartment building. The young woman that moves into the building right off the bat feels unwelcome and just feels like there's something not quite right about the building, which she questions because she's not sure if it's the vibe of the building or if it's her own personal feelings of uneasiness because of how she was raised and kind of came from like an abusive situation, an abusive home life as a child growing up. So she feels like everything is just like not safe and not the right place for her. And right away she becomes suspicious of her neighbor across the hall because things that he's doing make her think that he's not a good guy. And there's plot twists that happen that, as I was reading the book, I was like, oh my goodness, I totally didn't see that. Like, it makes sense now, like, hindsight being 2020. I see all the places where I didn't pick up on that. But there was that plot twist, and then there was a second plot twist. So many plot twists in this book that just really made me think about, like, human interactions and like relationships between people and things like that, where when people find their relationships that kind of fall apart, it makes you kind of question, like, how did I miss that, or how did I not see that? And this particular character, it makes you really feel for her because she had such a tumultuous childhood, and like her upbringing that made her feel like everywhere she turned she was alienated and like didn't fit, and just all of this like trauma that she holds that makes it really hard for her to make human connections and make friends and things like that. And then just about the time she feels like, okay, there's this person that I trust. Yeah, it was very intense. It was a great read. I really enjoyed this one because I just felt like the book moved so quickly and like progressed in such a way that you didn't want to stop reading or didn't want to stop listening. So that one I like powered through in like 2 days. It was that good. So definitely, if you're into the psychological thriller type book, this is definitely one you should pick up. And then the final book that I read this week was called Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice by Katie Cicatelli-Kuc. This one is a YA romance novel, very light romance. Being that it's YA, it read very much like a Hallmark story. I really liked it. It was a very good like book leading up to Halloween and that fall season of like all the festivals and things like that. This is one that probably I could have read at the beginning of October instead of the end of October, but that being said, it was fun. The main character, and I read so many books this week that I'm having a hard time keeping track of what characters' names belong where, but anyways, the main character is a high school teenage girl that helps her mother run the local coffee shop. And true to like the rom-com trope, a rival big name coffee store moves into town, and this young girl is in panic mode that her mom's going to lose her business and like everything's gonna go haywire and it's all gonna be like terrible, and people shouldn't like that big name coffee store because all of the things they sell are just like all of like the pop culture junk made with artificial sweeteners, and like nothing is real in their coffee drinks, and she just like labels them as like the downfall of society kind of thing. And she's very passionate about her beliefs in the way she thinks of this rival coffee store. And her mom keeps trying to reassure her that it's not as bad as she thinks. Like, they're not the competition. Like, maybe it'll be good that they'll come into town. Like, don't worry about it. But really, in the back of her mind, she's thinking, yeah, this is not good for business. Like, it's going to ruin us. And she does start seeing sales kind of falling, and just she's not going into panic mode like her daughter, but she sees that things are not going well for them. In the meantime, the young girl finds out that the people that own the new rival coffee shop have a teenage son that attends school with her, and everyone thinks he's just like the coolest and the best and like the exact opposite of what you would think of as like the new kid experience, where instead of him being like ostracized and like made fun of and pushed aside, he just like seamlessly falls into the cool crowd. And it just really annoys her that here she finds out that like the guy that's going to ruin her family business is so well received by everyone in town. And even initially she was kind of like, he's quite interesting, but then when she figures out that he's part of what she considers the problem, she just decides that no matter how much she seems like she kind of sort of likes him, he's just evil incarnate and he cannot be part of her world. And of course, as romantic comedy tropes go, the whole proximity thing, she just can't stay away from him. Like, he's just that charming, and he just like, she wants to hate him, but she can't. So it was just really cute. And as I was listening to the book, kind of felt like I could really see the scenes like unfolding. Like I've said before, I have like this very vibrant imagination when I'm listening to audiobooks or reading a novel, whether ebook or print. I really see like an image in my mind, so I'm listening to the movie in my brain and could see like all of the vibrancy of like this small town and like the quaintness of everything. um, the author did a really good job of just kind of immersing you in the novel. And when it comes to that, like, I really like a book when I'm reading it. I feel like the people are like jumping off the page or like popping out of the audio. The narrator of this did a really good job of making you feel like you're listening to different characters. It was, yeah, just a very enjoyable book. So Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice by Katie Cicatelli-Kuc was top notch. Again, if you like that kind of book. I enjoy a good rom-com, so this one was probably at the top of my list this week, even though my list was kind of short. But yeah, it was a good one. In terms of what I've been watching, again, pretty much the same. I don't really deviate too far from the list of things I like to watch. We watched Dancing with the Stars. Kind of torn about how things are unfolding on there. We still have our favorites. Tim and I, we've been watching together and doing our little keeping track of the scores throughout the season. So yeah, we've been keeping track of, you know, who's on the top of the leaderboard, who's falling to the bottom, and we have our favorites and we have the ones that we just say, why are they still here? So there was that. And then shifting gears, I really like that show. This week with their Halloween episode, it was a lot of fun. The different things that they were kind of weaving in. I like how they have like the sibling characters and then like the parent adult characters and then like the grandparent character, kind of like the multi-generational family thing going on. I like how each generation has their own little storyline going on. I really like how they're developing the relationship between the siblings, because I have a ton of siblings and we all had kind of our little nuances of our relationships with one another. So it's cute to see how they're developing the characters, the sibling dynamic there. And then I like seeing the single mom kind of thing going on, where she has her friend who could possibly be a romantic potential, but yeah. And then the dad slash grandpa, however you want to look at him, Tim Allen's character, just seeing how they're developing the story of him being like a widower and kind of working through his feelings of moving on after the passing of his wife. Like, I think it's a really great thing to see that represented in mainstream media and kind of talking about stuff like that just in everyday programming. So yeah, it's a cool show. It's fun that they kind of poke fun at some of the more serious things and kind of help to make it a little less taboo to talk about. So I like that show. And then Golden Bachelor this week was the Women Tell All. I always love the Tell All episode. No matter what season I'm watching, it's like a really fun episode, because what I like most is when they do the outtakes, or like the, like, let's take a look at these like behind the scenes kind of things. It's always fun. This season, with them showing the pillow fight that they had with the pajama party that the previous Golden Bachelor kind of stars came in and did with the women, and then just them trading ideas and like building each other up. Like, I enjoyed that reflection on that part of the season. So I like the concept or the idea of the people in the mansion kind of understanding that only one person is going to end up with whoever the bachelor or the bachelorette is, and working on the relationships amongst themselves and how friendships kind of like blossom in the mansion between the different contestants, because at the end only one of them is going to win, but in reality then they all kind of win when they walk away with new friends. So I guess again that's kind of like my Pollyanna type take on things, but I like seeing that. Like it's a fun part of the show, I guess. So yeah, and then 911. I'm glad that they kind of closed the chapter on that crazy outer space storyline that they had from the season opener. It just, I don't know, it was a little out there. I mean, they always do these like crazy outlandish, like the B-NATO and all that weird stuff that they do for the season premiere. But this time I just felt like it was really overdone, especially spreading it across 3 episodes. And they didn't even really like set up the season for like how the character relationships are gonna like shake out. Like they didn't really talk a whole lot about the new baby that came into play and like all the different, like, yeah, I don't know, it was not the best season premiere that they could have done, considering they put it across 3 episodes. So that's my hot take. Then 911 Nashville, again, they kind of push the envelope a little bit when it comes to how outrageous the storylines are, but I do like some of the drama that they're pulling in with the characters and the kind of like broken family thing that they've got going on with that program. It'll be interesting to see how those relationships kind of play out. I've been liking how the half brothers that didn't know about one another, how their relationship is kind of developing, and it'll be interesting to see how they continue to develop now, considering what Blue found out about his father and how his mother kind of dealt with the whole I don't know who your daddy is kind of thing. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah, and then Grey's Anatomy, like I said, one of my favorites. Some of the kind of offbeat things that happened this week with the storyline with Link and how he was supposed to go home after he was discharged from the hospital, and he didn't want to do that. He's just like such a workaholic and just so passionate about his job that he couldn't even go home to rest and recover after his trauma. So that was kind of funny, and just the way they kind of dealt with that. Good humor in that. And then just, yeah, I love all of my Grey's Anatomy characters and all of the ups and downs that they've been through. So it's been a good start to the season. We're continuing to watch Who's the Boss. Coming into the home stretch still. We watch, maybe 4 episodes a week, 5 episodes a week. So we'll get there. And finished off the final episode of the Halloween Baking Championship. It came down, the last 4 contestants that were on, we were torn as to who, like, we felt should win, because we had things that we liked about each one of them. So we were kind of like, no matter who wins, we'll be happy, because all of these contestants are like really likable and all have their strengths in their baking skills. So when the final verdict came down as to who the winner was, we were happy. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it and you have access to be able to go back to the beginning and watch it from the beginning, I would recommend it, because it was good. When certain characters needed to call it curtains, they got cut, and the final 4, at least in our house anyway, we were satisfied with it. We were happy with it. So yeah. Started watching the next season of My Life with the Walter Boys with my mom, It's on Netflix. I really enjoy that show. At the end of the first season, of course, they left it as a cliffhanger, so it was kind of like, but picked right up where they left off and started with a lot of drama in the first episode of the new season. So that was a fun one. We'll have to try and make time to sit down and watch those together. Maybe we'll have to make plans throughout the week next week to get together early in the morning to watch an episode or two and then make our way to the gym. I turned my mom into my new gym buddy, so that's what we were doing this week. And then watched a few more episodes of The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm on the current season, and boy oh boy, it's been quite the emotional roller coaster with Belly and Conrad and Jeremiah. She just can't make up her mind. I mean, girl, get with the program. Like, pick one. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do for the theatrical release and the movie. But I've been enjoying that, and like I said, this week, just getting back to the grind of, doing my crochet stuff and trying to be better about getting out to the gym, especially as the winter months, the cold weather months are rolling in. I don't necessarily like to go out for my walks or go out and ride the bike in the colder weather. It's hard on my lungs to breathe the cold air. I have asthma, and so when I go out in the cold or the wind, it kind of aggravates that. So I have to move all of my exercising indoors. I might have to go check out and see if Dare to Try is doing any of the virtual fitness, because I miss my buddies over there at Dare to Try. So definitely try and get back into that too. But yeah, don't forget, if this is your first time here, to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode of all the fun games I have going on here. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back week after week. As I've said, I really like doing these little, journal style videos for all of you. It kind of helps keep me on track of what I've been up to and things like that, and it's just fun. So like I said, I'll keep making the videos and you guys can keep coming back and hanging out. Until next week, make it a good one, and I'll see you around.